Going on, everybody? Welcome back to Talkin Sports with Jake. Hope we're all doing well. Let's talk about some baseball scores. Yesterday we had the Blue Jays beat the Brewers 3-1. So I'm gonna try and get back on track. They've been slumping a bit. Padres over the Marlins 10-1. Red Sox over the Reds 8-2. They scored 6 in the sixth inning of that game. Astros beat the Angels 5-2. Mets beat the Phillies 4-2. Mets sweep the Phillies in a set of 3. Mets now only 3.5 back of the Atlanta Braves. As mediocre they've been. Phillies have really struggled this year. A tough year. Have had some injuries and some guys have underperformed. Trey Turner has not had a good year at all. Hitting just 230, only has 15 RBIs. He had more RBIs in the World Baseball Classic than he has all of this season. He's not living up to his contract. Taiwan Walker, they had to pad their rotation, hasn't pitched well. And obviously didn't have Harper for a while. They got him back earlier than expected, but still, you miss him for a while. Rhys Hoskins is out for the season. They've had a tough year. Diamondbacks beat the Rockies 5-4. And the Twins beat the Guardians 7-6. Guardians are really struggling. Hearing a few GMs think that their ace Shane Bieber, who's got one more year left on his contract after this season, could be traded by the August 1st trade deadline. Another guy who possibly could be traded, I doubt it though, will be Jonathan India. He was National Rookie of the Year 2 years ago, having another really good year this year. The young second baseman for the Reds. I heard the Reds have gotten calls on him. Reds not willing to move him though. They got a top prospect named Ellie De La Cruz, who's the 4th best prospect in all of baseball. He's right now in AAA, hitting 301 for 401 on base and a 648 slugging, 11 homers, 33 RBIs, and 11 stolen bases. Just 21 years old. There's rumors they may be calling him up soon, and you can see why. He's clearly ready to be called up. And he's a shortstop. They'll put him at short. Their shortstop right now is Matt McClain, who's not one of their top prospects, who in 65 at-bats, I think he's had about 65 at-bats, hitting over 350. And the Reds think he could be a Gold Glove caliber second baseman, so they would move him to second, meaning Jonathan India wouldn't have a spot technically. He's really keen up like a second baseman, third baseman. He can play third, but right now Kevin Newman's every third baseman for Cincinnati. He was a guy who was a top prospect in Pittsburgh, kind of flamed out, and now he's in Cincinnati. He's playing well, though. He's had a pretty good year. They need to put him at DH. Sometimes what they've done is, I think the last game, they DH Tyler Stevens, who was their catcher, and then they caught Kirk Casale, but Kirk Casale is not very good. They could easily DH India, and then obviously Stevenson will catch full-time. Problem is, the reason they didn't do that is because Stevenson's a great hitter, but he's not a good defender. Casale can't hit, but he's a good defender. They could put him maybe in left field. Their outfield isn't that great. The guys they're running out there aren't the greatest. They could definitely maybe play him in left field. He's played left field before briefly, I think. I would probably DH him, but you never know. I don't think there's a chance in heck that they trade him at the deadline. Maybe an off-season thing, especially since the Reds they're 4 games under 500, which isn't great, but better than we thought they'd be. And that division is so bad, NL Central. They're only 2 or 3 games out of first place. So the Reds hypothetically could make the playoffs this year, at least as the standings looks right now. So maybe in the winter, that could be something that they explore. But just keep your eyes peeled for that. They'll preview the Game 1 of the Stanley Cup final between the Vegas Golden Knights and the Florida Panthers is tomorrow night. As for basketball, NBA Finals Game 1 was last night, and the Denver Nuggets beat the Miami Heat 103-94. Basically, cruised past them, won by 11. They were up 17 at the half, and they were up by 21 or 24 going into the third quarter. Heat creeped a little closer in the fourth quarter, but basically ran out of time. It didn't have enough time to come back from down 20 plus points. They just ran out of gas at the end. Denver wins 103-94. Jokic had a triple-double, 27 points, 10 boards, 14 assists. He didn't really even score that much till the fourth quarter. I think he was 10. He had a lot of free throws with 10 or 12 from the line. He only had 7 shot attempts in the first 3 quarters. He didn't have a shot attempt in the first quarter with the last minute or two of the first quarter. He only had 7 shot attempts in the first 3 quarters. But his passing was on a whole nother level. Jamal Murray had 26 or 28. Porter had a nice game. They had a nice game from Bruce Brown. Aaron Gordon 12 in the first quarter, finished with 16. Denver played really, really well. And the Heat really struggled. Jimmy Butler he struggled last night. He had just 13 points on 6 of 14 shooting. Max Strus was awful. Max Strus was 0 of 10. That's hard to do. He was horrible. Caleb Martin was absolutely terrible. He was like 1 of 7 or something. He was horrible. Vincent had an okay game. Duncan didn't really do anything. Bam had a nice game. Bam had 26 and 13, actually. But other than Bam, no one else really showed up for Miami. Denver completely outplayed him. Jokic was just looked like he was playing with them. Big game from Murray. You had their secondary pieces, Porter and KCP and Brown, Gordon. They all stepped up. They all played well. Denver's perimeter defense was really good. Jimmy Butler didn't play well. Also, he had 2 free throw attempts. That is the least amount of free throw attempts in a game in a playoff game or a finals game ever. I didn't even think it was like crappy refereeing. I thought the refereeing was fine. I mean, the refereeing across basketball has been getting worse and worse every year for like the last 2 or 3 years, and it's been really bad in this postseason. I mean, every game and every NBA game, there's so many calls. You think, oh, could have went this way or that way. I didn't really have a problem with any of the call. The refereeing wasn't that bad. The problem is that he was chucking up threes. Like, that's not a good strategy. Like what they're just chucking up 3. Strokes was like he was 0 of 10, like 0 of 7 from 3. Martin was like 1 of 7, like 0 of 5 from 3. Jimmy was only 6 of 14 for 13 points. He only made maybe 1 3. Obviously, Bam's not a 3-point shooter. It was not good. Yes, you had Denver had 20 free throw attempts compared to Miami had 2. But Denver is making effort to get to the paint. They were moving the ball really well, and Miami is just running up the court, chucking up a 3, missing it, and then they run back on defense. That's all that we're doing. It's not on the referees. The referees were fine. A lot of times when the free throw disparity is that large, people say, "Oh my God, the referees are in the other team's pocket." But no, I thought someone who watched the game thought it was fine. Miami just didn't make an effort to get to the rim. 1 trip to the free throw line in a whole game, that's just not good enough. Some NBA news, Los Angeles Lakers apparently will match any offer sheet on Austin Reeves up to $100 million. I'm hearing the Spurs could be a dark horse team that will try to go after him. I think he'll have a lot of interest. We'll see. Will someone offer him, 105, 110 plus million, try to maybe overpay a little bit, but it might, put some pressure on the Lakers, Whereas if someone offered them $75 million, I think the Lakers would match that in a heartbeat. But if someone offers them, 120 million, let's say, the Lakers could not put pressure on the Lakers. All right, we really want him back, but they don't want to pay that much for him. So we'll see what happens in restricted free agency this offseason. I think Tar Heel could play game 2. Originally, they were saying maybe game 3 was the target. Now we're saying he could play game 2. So keep your eye on that. They could use his floor spacing for sure. I mean, he hasn't played in almost 6 weeks. So if not more than that, we'll see what happens. The Washington Wizards have hired a former president of basketball operations with the Atlanta Hawks, Travis Schlenk, as their senior vice president of player personnel. Wizards are making a lot of changes. Of course, they brought in Michael Winger, the GM of the Clippers, as their president of basketball operations. He's going to have a lot of power in that organization. We'll see what they do. You got Kristaps Porzingis is a free agent. May have somebody else as a free agent. I'm not sure, but will they trade Bradley Beal? Will they keep him? Will they look to extend him? What do they do in the draft? I'm hearing a lot of teams think they'll be aggressive in free agency. We'll see what they do. It'll be very, very interesting. And then another bring a guy in Travis Schlenk, who's a very good talent evaluator. This guy who's got an experienced executive. We'll see what happens. The John Morant ruling will apparently come after the finals. I'm a little bit worried because the Adam Silver did a press conference a few hours before the game, and the reporter asked him a question about John Morant, and he said they've uncovered some additional information on John Morant. He said they probably could have brought it to a head now, but they didn't want to take the spot. Basically, didn't want to take the spotlight off these teams and his players in the middle of the series. So basically, they have not announced the ruling on a John Morant investigation, despite having finished the investigation, because he's worried that that headline would overshadow the NBA Finals. So something's definitely happened. Obviously, John Morant has really had a hard time staying out of trouble. He flashed a gun on Instagram back in March, and then the whole story came out that John Morant was going out and partying a lot of times right after road games. And then they had a players only meeting that Steven Adams led, and he was talking to the entire team saying, "Guys, we gotta stop going out after road game. We gotta stay more focused." They were having a great season. They were one of the best teams in the West, top 3 team in the West, but you could tell he didn't say his name, but you could tell he was talking about Ja. And then after that game, Ja went and partied anyway. And he flashed a gun. And then the Grizzlies suspended him. He took a leave of absence. He checked into a counseling center briefly, but after being suspended for 8 games, he came back. He played the rest of the season, the first round of the playoffs, and then a couple weeks ago he does it again, and then the Grizzlies suspended him. The NBA investigated, and it appears they've finished the investigation. They will announce it. I'm hearing shortly after the finals. He really needs to get himself into some sort of counseling center, some sort of rehab center, and really take all the time, even if it bleeds into next year. Take your suspension, whether it's 10 games, 20 games, 30 games, whatever it is, take it on the chin, get yourself some help, and come back when you're ready. He's going to be out of the league very shortly and possibly worse if he continues down this path. The Phoenix Suns have hired Frank Vogel to be their next head coach. He gets a big contract, 5 years, $31 million. These coaches are getting a lot of money. No, Adrian, whatever his name is, Adrian Dantley or something. Whatever. Adrian, I forgot his name. The assistant with Toronto who took the Milwaukee up. He got a 4-year deal. Yeah, then Monty Williams got 6 years, $72 million. Could be up to 8 for 100 with Detroit. And now Pringle gets 5 for 31 with Phoenix. I think it's a solid hire. Vogel's a good coach. I've always been a fan of him. He's kind of got, I feel like he's gotten a raw deal wherever he's been. He was in Indiana. I thought he did a good job there. They got better every year under him. If it wasn't for the Heat teams led by LeBron, Wade, and Bosh, they would have been they would have gotten to the finals. They could have won. I think they could have won a championship. The Steelers in Orlando is not a situation that those teams were very, very bad. And the Lakers, he won the championship in the bubble, and then they lost in the first round to Phoenix, and then that's just that tumultuous year 2 years ago. I did not think was on him, and I would have kept him for at least another year. He was out of the league this year. Now he's back in the league as a head coach with the Phoenix Suns. Now, I think it's a pretty good hire. All right, that's almost all I have. The Memorial Tournament is still going on the PGA Tour in Ohio. Hideki Matsuyama right now is the leader at 7 under par. We still got two more days. We'll see what happens. And before I close off the show, breaking news happened a couple days ago. Shannon Sharpe has reached a contract buyout agreement with FS1. Of course, their parent company is Fox Sports. He will be leaving FS1. He will be leaving the Undisputed. Of course, he co-hosts a show called Undisputed on FS1. Again, their parent company is Fox Sports. It's basically the same thing. With Skip Bayless, there's been tension recently between the two. Kind of going on for a couple of years, certain things, if you really look closely. And of course, when DeMar Hamlin, the Bills player, had the very scary incident late in the regular season, and he collapsed, he put out that controversial tweet, and then the day afterwards, Shannon Sharpe didn't show up to work. And then the next day, Shannon came back and he asked Skip to take down the tweet, and Skip stood by what he said and didn't do it. And then Shannon ended up being a very testy argument on the air. And clearly, I think Shannon is done with him, and he is leaving. I heard shortly after the NBA Finals, some point in June, at least by the end of the month, he will be gone. Now, his podcast, which gets a lot of viewership on social media, will also be leaving at FS1, so he's completely done with the network. We'll see what happens, see what he does. Now, I wonder, will he go on their network? We don't know. I mean, he'll still be doing his podcast, I'm sure. It's gotten very popular. What does Skip do? Will he bring in somebody else? Will he do it by himself? I don't know. I mean, they should just fire him at this point. He's very arrogant and not good at what he does. So, but Shannon Sharpe is leaving FS1. I'm not a big Shannon guy, but he does deserve better. Good for him. All right, that's all I got for you guys today. Until next time, so long. Have a great day.